Picture this. You've just said, I do. You're still in your wedding dress, bouquet in hand, glowing from the best day of your life. And then your phone buzzes. One text. From your boss's son. You're fired. Consider it my gift to you. That's exactly what happened to me. On my wedding day. And what came next? Let's just say nobody, not even me, saw it coming. I'm Hannah Reed, and for 2 years I was basically the backbone of Summit Architecture Group. I'm the type of person who color codes her grocery list and can spot a measurement error in a blueprint from across the room. My coworkers used to call me the database because I remembered every client preference, every deadline, every detail without ever needing to look anything up. My parents were both teachers, big believers in hard work and precision. When my dad had a stroke during my first year of college, I nearly dropped out to help my mom with the bills. Instead, I doubled my course load and worked nights at a print shop. I graduated with honors in architectural project management, with a side focus in systems and urban planning. That's how I ended up at Summit. The founder, Walter Hale, recognized that weird mix of skills I had, architecture brain plus systems brain, and hired me to completely overhaul their project management. I built a custom system from scratch, one that tracked every blueprint revision, every client request, every budget line, every permit. It worked. Project completion times dropped by 30%. Client satisfaction went up. Walter literally called me the best investment this company ever made. Then came his son. Brandon Hale, 32 years old, had bounced around 3 different divisions of his father's company and never really landed anywhere. He had his dad's jawline and confidence, but none of his actual skills. 3 months before my wedding, Walter announced he was semi-retiring and promoted Brandon to department director, which made him my direct boss. The vibe changed overnight. Where Walter used to ask for my input, Brandon cut me out of meetings entirely. Where Walter publicly praised my system, Brandon quietly took credit for it. When I scheduled training sessions to document how it worked so other people could learn it, Brandon canceled them, calling them an unnecessary expense. Around that same time I met Nathan. He worked at the city permit office, the rare guy behind the counter who actually read submissions instead of just stamping them. We connected over blueprints, then coffee, then dinner. Nathan became my escape from an increasingly toxic office. What I didn't know yet was that he'd started noticing something off about certain submissions coming from Summit, specifically the ones Brandon had personally handled. 2 months into dating, Nathan proposed. We planned a small, low-key wedding pretty quickly, partly because neither of us wanted anything extravagant, and partly because honestly I had a feeling my job at Summit was about to fall apart anyway. Brandon kept dropping hints about restructuring. Still, I never thought he'd actually fire me by text. On my wedding day, as the reception carried on around me, I slipped away to the bridal suite and listened to a voicemail from Walter. Hannah, this is Walter. Call me immediately. Brandon had no authority to terminate you. There's been a mistake. We need you. The downtown submission deadline is Monday, and nobody can access your system. 6 more messages followed, each more frantic than the last. In the final one, Walter's usual confidence was completely gone. Hannah, please. The whole development team is threatening to walk. Nobody can find the updated drawings. Brandon's password doesn't work. We're stuck. I sat there on the edge of a velvet bench, my wedding dress pooling around me, and felt something I really didn't expect. Power. For 2 years I'd built a system so intuitive to me that I navigated it without thinking, and so complex that nobody else could touch it without proper training. Training that Brandon had blocked over and over again. I was the only person on earth who fully understood that system. And on what should have been the worst professional day of my life, I suddenly realized I was holding every card. Nathan found me sitting there, staring at my phone. He sat down beside me, careful not to wrinkle my dress. There's something I need to tell you, he said quietly. The plans Brandon's been submitting to my department. He's been quietly changing them after the engineering team signs off. Cutting corners. Cheaper materials. Removing safety features. Stuff that would never pass a real inspection. My stomach dropped. That's not just unethical. That's dangerous. Nathan nodded. I've been documenting it. I was going to report it next week. And suddenly it clicked. That's why he'd smiled when he saw the firing text. This wasn't a setback for me. It was an opening. One that took me out of any legal liability, while leaving Summit completely helpless without me. What should we do? I asked. He smiled. Nothing. Not today. Today we dance. Tomorrow we fly to Bali for our honeymoon. And when we get back, he kissed my forehead. We reshaped the whole landscape. So we went back out there, and I danced like a woman with absolutely nothing weighing on her. By midnight, I had over 200 missed calls. Maybe that's the thing about hitting rock bottom on what's supposed to be your happiest day. Sometimes it's the exact moment you finally see everything clearly. The calls kept coming all through our honeymoon. I sent everyone to voicemail. Walter's messages went from urgent to desperate to almost begging. On day 3 in Bali, sipping coconut water on the beach, I got a voicemail offering to triple my salary if I came back. I deleted it without responding. 2 days later, he offered me partial ownership of the company. I didn't respond to that either. Nathan watched me turn down offer after offer without saying a word about it, because he understood something fundamental about me. This was never about money. It was about respect. On our last evening in Bali watching the sunset, Nathan said, "You know, there's an opening on the consulting side at the city's planning office. They need someone who understands architectural submissions from both ends. Someone who could write the playbook for catching exactly the kind of shortcuts Brandon was taking." I turned to him. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying you start your own consulting firm, with the city as your very first client." The idea took root instantly. By the time our plane landed, I'd already drafted a business plan on my tablet. 3 days later, I officially registered Clarity Compliance Group. My phone rang minutes after the registration went public. Walter Hale. For the first time in 2 weeks I picked up. "Hannah, thank God. The downtown project is completely stalled. Clients are walking. Name your price." "I'm sorry to hear that, Walter," I said calmly. "But I'm no longer available for employment. I've started my own firm." "Then we'll hire your firm. Whatever you charge, we'll pay it." I let the silence sit there for a moment. "My first client is the city planning department, Walter. I'm building new verification protocols for building submissions." I heard him take a sharp breath. He understood exactly what that meant. If I was working with the city on better verification systems, I'd inevitably uncover whatever Brandon had been doing, if Nathan hadn't already flagged it. "Hannah, please. Brandon made a terrible mistake. He was jealous of your relationship with me, of how good you were. Let me fix this." "Some things can't be fixed, Walter. Some bridges once burned stay ash." I hung up and turned to Nathan, who'd been listening nearby. "Is it bad that felt so good?" He shook his head. "It's not wrong to stand up for yourself, or for public safety." The following week, my contract with the city started. With my insider knowledge of how firms like Summit operated, I quickly spotted weak points in their current review process and built new protocols specifically designed to catch unauthorized changes to approved plans, especially structural ones made without engineering sign-off. As part of the rollout, the city ran an audit on recent submissions. And surprise, they found a long list of violations in Summit's downtown project, all traced back to submissions Brandon had personally handled. Load-bearing walls thinned out. Foundation specs quietly altered. Safety features stripped to save money. The fallout was swift. The downtown project was pulled and handed to a competing firm. Brandon wasn't just fired, he was blacklisted across the industry, and his professional license got suspended pending review. Summit's 30-year reputation collapsed in about 30 days. Through industry contacts, I heard Walter had a minor heart attack from the stress. Honestly, that part didn't bring me any satisfaction. Walter had been a good mentor to me once, before his blind spot for his son took over everything. My consulting business, meanwhile, took off. Within 6 months, I had contracts with 3 different city governments and was hiring staff just to keep up. Nathan got promoted at the permit office for taking the ethical stand he did. We bought our first house, a fixer-upper with great bones, kind of like our life together. Then, exactly 1 year to the day after my wedding, a thick cream envelope showed up at my office. Inside was a handwritten letter from Walter. "Dear Hannah," it began. "Some debts can never fully be repaid, but acknowledgement is the start of atonement. I've spent this year rebuilding what my son's actions and my own negligence destroyed. Brandon has completed a professional ethics program and now works in a junior role under strict supervision. He understands what he did. Summit has new leadership, new protocols, new everything. We're a different company now. I'm writing to ask if you'd consider meeting with me. Not to come back, I know that bridge is ash, but to consult on our new systems to make sure we never fail the public again. Whatever you decide, please know my respect for you has only grown. With sincere regret and admiration, Walter Hale. I showed it to Nathan that night. What do you think? Should I meet him? He thought about it. What would your reason be for going? Closure? Vindication? Curiosity? Honestly, all three. And maybe to see if real change is even possible. Then I think you already have your answer. I scheduled the meeting for the following week. When my assistant told me Walter wanted it held at Summit's offices instead of mine, I almost canceled. Walking back into that building felt like stepping backward. But curiosity won. When I arrived, a receptionist I didn't recognize greeted me politely and led me through hallways that looked different. New faces, new energy, new systems running on every screen. They genuinely started over. The conference room door was open. Inside wasn't just Walter. Brandon was there too, sitting stiffly beside his father, eyes on the table. Walter stood to greet me, but Brandon stayed seated. Hannah, thank you for coming, Walter said. His handshake was firm, but he looked years older than the time that had actually passed. Your letter was unexpected, I said, taking a seat across from them. As was the education of this past year, he replied. He glanced at his son. Brandon has something he'd like to say. Brandon finally looked up. The arrogance I remembered was gone, replaced by something I genuinely didn't recognize, something close to humility. I owe you an apology, he said, voice barely above a whisper. What I did was unprofessional, vindictive, and honestly dangerous to the public. There's no excuse for it. It sounded rehearsed, but the shame on his face looked real. Apology noted, I said, neither accepting nor dismissing it. Walter cleared his throat and slid a folder across the table. The company's been rebuilt from the ground up. New safety protocols, new review process, new leadership structure. Brandon's no longer in management. He's relearning this business properly, from the bottom. I opened the folder. Genuinely impressive. Along with it was a consulting contract offering a serious fee for my review. We're not asking you to come back, Walter clarified. Just to evaluate what we've built. Make sure it's real. Then Brandon stood up suddenly, left the room and came back with a smaller envelope, placing it in front of me with shaking hands. Inside was a check, for the exact total cost of my wedding. Down to the penny, including the last flower arrangement. How did you even know this number? I asked. Your wedding planner is my cousin's best friend, Walter admitted. I asked for the exact total. Brandon spoke again, steadier this time. Consider it our gift. The one I claimed to be giving you when I had no right to. For a second, something hot flared up in my chest. Did they actually think money could fix this? That a check could buy back ethical standing? Before I could respond, Brandon set a small USB drive down next to the check. This is yours too. It's the full project management system you built. All the access points, all the passwords. We've patched together something basic, but it's never worked right without you. Take it, delete it, whatever you want. I looked at that tiny drive, 2 years of work sitting between two fingers. The same system that had been used as a weapon against me, when Brandon refused to let anyone else learn it. And looking at the two of them, one man humbled by his own failures as a father, the other humbled by the consequences of his own arrogance, I realized something about revenge. Sometimes it shows up without you having to lift a finger to deliver it. I closed the folder and stood. I'll review your proposal and get back to you within the week. My fee will be triple your original offer, paid up front. My team gets full access and full transparency. Walter nodded immediately. Agreed. One more condition. I looked directly at Brandon. You personally complete every single training module I assign. No matter how basic, no matter how long it takes. You're going to become this company's foremost expert on doing things the right way. Color drained from Brandon's face, but he nodded. Understood. Then we might have something to discuss. I picked up my things and walked to the door. then paused, hand on the handle. Oh, and Walter? Keep the check. Watching your son actually learn integrity will be gift enough. I walked out of that building with my head high, the check still sitting untouched on the table behind me. But here's the thing, that meeting wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of the part that surprised even me. That night, eating dinner with Nathan, my phone buzzed with a news alert. The competing firm, the one that had taken over the downtown project after Summit lost it, was now under state investigation for bribery, allegedly paying off officials to fast-track approvals on designs with serious flaws. Did you know about this? I asked Nathan. He shook his head. Just opened today. It's a state investigation, not city. My mind started racing. If that firm collapsed, the downtown project would be back in limbo. Millions in funding frozen, workers laid off, the whole community revitalization stalling out again. Maybe that's why Walter reached out now, Nathan said slowly. He must have known this was coming. He's positioning Summit to take the project back. And there it was. I wasn't being courted out of regret. I was being courted because Walter needed my systems to grab an opportunity the moment his competitor fell apart. Funny how the people who hurt you the worst always seem to come back the moment they need something from you again. I didn't sleep much that night, turning it all over. Was Brandon's apology real, or just another performance? Was Walter actually committed to reform, or just desperate to save his legacy? And what did I actually want out of all this? By morning I had my answer. I called Walter at 7 a.m. I've reconsidered your offer. I'm not interested in consulting for Summit. His silence said everything. However, I continued, I am interested in something else. A partnership. My company handles all project management and compliance. Summit handles design and construction. Two separate companies presenting to clients as partners. I keep my independence and ethical standards get met. No exceptions. That's highly unusual, he said slowly. So is firing someone on their wedding day. A long pause. What about Brandon? He works for you. Not me. But anything he touches goes through triple verification by my team. I'll need to talk to the board. Give me 24 hours. 23 hours later he called back. The board approved with one addition. A 3-year minimum commitment, too firm with an option to extend based on agreed performance metrics. Done, I said. And just like that, Clarity Compliance Group landed its biggest client yet. When the competing firm got pulled from the downtown project 2 weeks later, our newly formed partnership was ready with updated plans, enhanced safety features, and a management system that combined my original design with the new compliance layer. The city awarded us the contract, partly because of the unique partnership model itself. The press started calling it a new standard for accountability in the industry. Brandon was assigned as a junior project coordinator, 5 levels below where he used to be. Every morning my team sent him a training module. Every evening he was tested on it. If he failed, he repeated it the next day. To my genuine surprise, he never complained. He worked through every assignment carefully, asked smart questions, and slowly started to actually understand why the rules existed, not just that they did. 3 months in, I showed up early for a site inspection and found Brandon already there, checking concrete specs against the approved plans by hand. You don't have to personally verify this, I told him. That's what the site engineers do. He straightened up. I know, but I need to understand it from the ground up. It's the only way I'll actually learn it. I studied him for a second, looking for any trace of the guy who fired me by text on my wedding day. Instead, I saw someone chastened and genuinely trying to rebuild himself. Why'd you do it? I asked before I could stop myself. Why fire me specifically on that day? He flinched but didn't look away. Because I knew you were right about everything. The training, the safety concerns, all of it. And I couldn't stand that you built something so essential that even my own father respected you more than he respected me. So I went after you at the worst possible moment. And instead you watched everything fall apart. He nodded. The system nobody could run. The projects nobody could track. My dad's face when he realized what I'd done. He swallowed. I destroyed what could have been the best mentorship I'd ever get. You can't undo the past, I said finally. But you're right about one thing, you would have had a good mentor. You still could. If you earn it. Hope flickered across his face. How? By becoming the kind of professional who puts safety and integrity above ego. By learning this business properly. By admitting when you don't know something instead of hiding it. I can do that, he said quietly. I will do that. Over the following months, the downtown project moved ahead of schedule. Our partnership model got national attention. Other cities started asking about similar arrangements. My firm grew to 15 employees. Summit slowly rebuilt its name under the new structure. About 6 months in, my old assistant from Summit, Sophie, showed up at my office unannounced. Walter wants to promote Brandon to assistant project manager, she said, no preamble. I raised an eyebrow. And he sent you to gauge my reaction? She smiled. He sent me to get your honest read. Brandon's aced every module. His site reports are clean. The team actually respects him now. And what do you think? I asked. Sophie had always been a good judge of people. I think he's actually changed. And I think real responsibility might be what locks it in. I considered it. Tell Walter I'll support it on one condition. Brandon handles the upcoming community presentation completely on his own. Let's see how he does in front of the people this project actually affects. That presentation was a big deal. A packed room of residents who'd seen plenty of broken promises before, with plenty of tough questions ready. I sat in the back unrecognized. Brandon showed up early, set up the displays himself, greeted people personally. When he stepped up to the podium, I noticed something I never expected from him. He was nervous, and instead of covering it with arrogance the way old Brandon would have, he just owned it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brandon Hale, Assistant Project Coordinator. Some of you remember when this project stalled last year. That was partly because of mistakes I made. Shortcuts that compromised safety and broke your trust. A murmur went through the room. Nobody expected that kind of honesty. He walked them through the updated plans, pointed out exactly where community feedback had shaped the design, and when tough questions came, he answered them straight, including more than once saying, I don't know, but I'll find out and follow up with you personally. By the end, the skepticism in the room had turned into something closer to cautious trust. People stayed after to ask follow-up questions, and he handled every one of them. I slipped out before he spotted me, but I'd seen enough. The next day I called Walter. I heard Brandon did well yesterday. He did. I was there. And your verdict? I paused, knowing what I said next mattered. I support the promotion. He's earned it. I could hear the relief in Walter's voice. Thank you, Hannah. That means everything. Then more carefully. Just remember, trust gets rebuilt in small moments repeated over time. One good night doesn't erase the past. I understand. We all do. Standing at my office window that evening, looking out at the downtown skyline, cranes moving, workers everywhere, a community slowly starting to believe in this project again, I realized something. This wasn't the revenge I'd imagined the morning I came home from my honeymoon to over 200 missed calls. It was something else, something more complicated, a reconstruction, not a destruction. I hadn't ruined Brandon or Walter. I'd helped build a system where they could become better, while making sure I never had to answer to either of them again. And in doing that, I'd built something more valuable than a system only I understood. I'd built a model of accountability that could outlast all of us. That evening, walking past the construction site with Nathan on our way to dinner, we stopped to watch the sunset hit the half-finished buildings. You happy with how this turned out? He asked, squeezing my hand. I thought about it. I'm satisfied. Not because anyone suffered, but because real change actually happened. The buildings are safer. The company's different. And Brandon's becoming someone who actually deserves his title. Whether that keeps going is on him now. Nathan smiled. When I showed you that text on our wedding day, I never imagined it'd end up like this. I figured you'd want to burn it all down. Maybe I would have, I said, if you hadn't shown me there was another way. As we kept walking, my phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. Thank you for supporting the promotion. I won't let you down. I showed it to Nathan, who raised an eyebrow. Going to respond? I thought for a second, then typed back. Make sure you don't. Some gifts can't be returned. I hit send and realized almost too late that the text had landed exactly 1 year to the day after his gift to me on my wedding morning. The symmetry wasn't lost on me, and somehow I don't think it was lost on him either.